Reform or revolution? It appears we're getting closer to the point in history where we, the
So, revolution actually happens when people have a student mentality, when they're ready to learn new things. And most Americans are not ready to learn new things, or even old things like the Declaration of Independence. They're too stuck in their ways as a national narcissist, waving their American flag to understand America. They're letting their patriotism get in the way of their own education about the United States. Why the United States ended in 2014, why you can't educate an American, why their country ended in Cascadia during the Obama administration. Well, journalism died. What if Americans aren't curious anymore about reality? What if a foreign power wants to micromanage all the news because they took over Washington, D.C., right? You can see national narcissists will take over other nations just to control their media and to control their military as a martial narcissist. Okay? Israel wants to take over the world using the United States and its military and the American people as war fodder. Okay? It doesn't care if Americans die, it just wants to micromanage the US military and take over its politicians and to control the United States like a parasite, right? Now, is nationalism a good thing? No, it's a stumbling block in our human progress. When we have a pissing contest over who owns the moon planting the American flag, well, it shows our immaturity. We should plant the authentic Earth flag instead on the moon, so we're not fighting over who owns the moon in our immaturity, in our adolescence. And the dark ages of the boomer timeline, where there are national and martial narcissists who like to play God with kinetic warfare. So, all this waving different colored flags doesn't get us anywhere good or positive. It shows we're disorganized as a planet. Oh, yes, our leadership is piss poor and disorganized. We have 198 different leaders of the planet. We can't agree upon who should be a leader of the free world, can we? Right? So, we found out in 2014 when the United States actually ended. Well, it did end. You just didn't notice because it was a nonviolent revolution, right? That's why they said the tree of liberty must be sometimes watered with the blood of tyrants and patriots. Well, I was the governor of Liberty State. Did you notice as Americans? No, you don't notice new states in America. You don't notice new countries like Cascadia when they happen. You're an American. You're too blinded by your American patriotism to understand the concept. The founders told you people could start a new country if you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't listen. You might even go as far as to say, as a Silas know-it-all nincompoop, that's illegal. No, you can't start a new country in America. That's illegal. You don't know anything about America when you say that, right? I can alter or abolish the U.S. government like I did 12 years ago in Cascadia. It says so in America's founding document. If you don't know about it, go back and read the Declaration of Independence, since Americans didn't read it for 250 years. Yeah, they may have signed the document, they may have signed the Declaration of Independence, but they didn't understand the right to life. And you can tell because they have lethal force by police, abortion, and execution. That shows you Americans never understood the right to life. They attack other nations and take the lives of other people. That shows you Americans didn't understand proper U.S. foreign policy or the right to life. So teaching the right to life to the president is the biggest deal in the world in 2026, teaching it to the governor, teaching it to the Supreme Court, because they don't actually know their job anymore in an idiocracy. If you've had an idiocracy for over a decade, you know you're living in a terrible situation because the ignorance, like Carl Sagan warned about in Demon Haunted World, has overtaken uh, everybody in the place of progress, right? You're going to go back to your repetitious government that doesn't know what it's doing instead of social change, which is required to be progressive to actually do what the public wants. What does the public want? They want the smartest to lead, not the most popular candidate. That means all your elections worldwide are irrelevant. The boomers are going to tell you that these elections are so important. But what if I'm smarter than every national leader worldwide? And the majority wants the smartest to lead. That just made every national leader irrelevant. Do you understand? That is such a huge, monumental, big deal. No government is going to allow that information to get out, what the public actually wants, because they keep their power a sneaky way through subversion, control of the media, with talking head puppets, with their puppet show. It's called the Dog and Pony Show in Pentagonese, right? So I like to talk about divide and conquer strategy because all of these are just ways you can divide the public with class warfare. You know, uh, different national flags, different religions, right? Different sexes, different races, different bank accounts. And the Machiavellian power monger likes to get their power by dividing the public, getting them to squabble over this and that. They want to divide uh, the Jews from the Germans, for example, right? That's divide and conquer strategy, right? You're dividing the public. So Trump's wall is dividing the public, for example. People are torn, families are torn. People are in concentration camps that are illegal by the younger generation. But the boomers don't care. They're psychopaths who hold all the power. Uh, they hold all the kinetic warfare and war machines. Even though the guy who leads every military for the first time in history is going to tell you the truth that only cowards fight with lethal weapons and bombs. Now the boomers want to control the youth, and they might start having trouble if I tell the truth. Only cowards fight with lethal weapons and bombs worldwide. You're not going to have any honor as a leader if you attack another nation anymore with kinetic warfare, with bombs and bullets. You're going to stand out like a sore thumb for being a psychopath, martial narcissist. Okay? Because I'm the leading expert on narcissism and the leading sociologist as your new government. I'm going to point out when the Machiavellian powermonger is trying to use scorched earth policy to take over the world with bombs. Okay? Israel's trying to do that. They want to expand in the region, take over Lebanon, take over Egypt, take over Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. They want to take over the world. They already took over the US government. Now they want to take over the world. Don't you get it? That's why when they're funding the military in front of Congress, they talk about Russia and China as the enemy. That would be batshit crazy for the American people. They don't even get allowed into this conversation when they're funding their own military who the enemy is. No, they don't consider Russia or China the enemy, but Israel does. And that puts all Americans in danger when they abuse the U.S. military with Pete Hegseth and his insider trading when Trump attacks Iran for Israel. Hey, that could lead to thermonuclear Armageddon. Oh, quite easily. Don't you see? That could put